What if the real revenge wasn't getting even, it was getting free? Today we're reframing the First Wives Club as the grief to sisterhood story we still desperately need, and exploring how Diane Keaton taught a generation that rebuilding yourself isn't weakness, it's the most defiant thing a woman can do. The First Wives Club follows 3 college friends reunited at the funeral of their 4th friend, Cynthia, who died by her own hands after her husband left her for someone younger. Turns out, all 3 are facing similar abandonments. Instead of drowning in their grief, they form the First Wives Club, transforming their pain into purpose. The First Wives Club begins where most comedies fear to tread, with the loss of a friend. Cynthia's death isn't backstory, but the emotional shockwave that transforms individual suffering into collective action. Studio executives originally wanted this opening removed entirely, calling it too dark for a comedy. Director Hugh Wilson and the cast fought back, insisting the film's emotional depth depended on starting with loss. That fight paid off. What was seen as melodrama in 1996 now reads as commentary on the mental toll of gendered ageism and the isolation that comes when society deems you worthless the moment your marriage ends. Diane Keaton's Annie is the film's trembling heart. She's perpetually on the edge of either breakthrough or breakdown, her neurotic energy becoming a portrait of a woman so conditioned to minimize herself that confidence feels like rebellion. Keaton drew directly from her own complex relationship history, particularly her years with Woody Allen, to bring authenticity to Annie's self-doubt and rediscovery. Her signature breathless delivery and nervous optimism become the perfect vehicle for a woman learning to trust herself again. The genius lies in making Annie's journey feel earned. She fumbles, doubts, backslides when her husband shows interest again. When Annie shrieks or cries, we laugh, not just because it's funny, but because we recognize the uncomfortable truth at its heart. By the film's end, when Annie rejects Aaron's attempts to reconcile, Keaton plays the moment not with triumph, but with quiet certainty, making Annie the one who shows the most growth. The film works as meta-commentary on the very industry that created it. Goldie Hawn's storyline about a fading actress reliant on cosmetic surgery wasn't just fiction. Hawn herself confirmed the script hit too close to home, noting she'd personally faced pressure to stay young and bankable. The irony wasn't lost on audiences. Here was a movie critiquing Hollywood ageism while starring women navigating that exact discrimination. Producer Scott Rudin openly stated the film was made for women who never saw themselves on screen anymore, deliberately targeting the over 35 demographic Hollywood had abandoned. The film's most subversive move is showing how revenge nearly destroys them. Annie takes control of Aaron's firm, Brenda threatens Morty with fraud evidence, Elise weaponizes Bill's relationship with an underage actress. But these acts prove self-serving, turning the women against each other in a vicious second-act collapse. When Annie wants to quit entirely, the film reveals its deepest insight. Power structures built by men don't just keep women down, they turn women against each other. Some critics accuse the film of reducing feminism to petty payback and fashion montages, but that misreading ignores the film's actual conclusion. Personal revenge is poison. The ultimate power move isn't using men's tools against them. It's building something entirely new. If the pillars of power, money, and sex are self-serving, then the ultimate revenge is using them selflessly. This is why the Crisis Center opening feels so powerful. What women trapped in impossible situations need isn't payback, but dignity. A world not defined by men, but one opened up by other women who understand their right to safety and self-worth. Annie becomes the voice of conscience, articulating that they need to think bigger than themselves. It's feminism repositioned as collective rather than individual, a cultural correction to the lonely 80s career woman archetype. What makes Keaton's work so enduring is her refusal to let Annie become simply confident or simply healed. Now, her quirks exist alongside power, alongside certainty about her own worth. Keaton teaches us that transformation doesn't mean becoming someone else entirely. It means learning that who you are is enough. The white suits in the final scene aren't just costume choices, but visual declarations of rebirth. Costume designer Theoni V. Aldridge stated, "The white palette was chosen to cleanse the pain and signal the beginning of something new. When Annie rejects Aaron, we're watching decades of conditioning fall away." The First Wives Club remains radical because it insists that rebirth becomes more powerful when it's shared. Diane Keaton's performance taught us that starting over doesn't require becoming someone new. It requires remembering who you were before the world convinced you to disappear. All these years later, Keaton's legacy still lights the way, proof that the women who dare to rebuild themselves don't just survive, they show the rest of us how to live. This is Ladies First, watching women in movies. Here we empower women by reviewing and discussing films that highlight their stories, struggles, and achievements. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments.